Let me ask you something. Do you remember the last time you almost said something to someone you liked? That one moment, maybe at a coffee shop, at work, at a party, where everything in you was screaming, just say it, just speak, just go for it. But you didn't. Maybe you looked at their eyes a second too long. Maybe they smiled. Maybe they walked away. And you told yourself it wasn't the right moment. Next time, I'll be braver. But deep down, you knew. There probably wouldn't be a next time. That was it. A 3-second window, gone. That's the thing about hesitation. It doesn't show up as fear. It shows up as logic. It wears the costume of, let me think about it, when really it's fear in disguise. You don't just hesitate when it comes to love. You hesitate when you're about to make the call that could change your career. You hesitate when you've been sitting on a business idea for months, maybe years, and finally the money shows up. The time feels right. The opportunity aligns. And still, something inside you says, wait, what if I'm not ready? But here's the truth no one tells you. You'll never feel ready. You just learn to act before the doubt takes the wheel. Do you know how many people almost booked the ticket to a new life? A new country, a fresh start, a real chance to reinvent themselves. But they waited. They opened the website. They hovered over the button. They imagined it. And then they closed the tab. I'll do it next month. I'll save a little more. I'll wait for the right moment. The right moment is the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Because while you're hesitating, the world isn't. Someone else booked that ticket. Someone else made that call. Someone else started building the thing you only dreamed about. And no, it's not because they were more talented than you. It's because they moved. They didn't let the fear win that one tiny moment. Hesitation is quiet. It doesn't punch you in the face. It just slowly bleeds you of momentum. It makes you almost do things, almost take chances, almost become the person you were supposed to be. And that almost piles up until one day your life is a list of what ifs instead of, I'm glad I tried. Look, I'm not saying every decision should be reckless. I'm saying the most important moments in your life will often come with a shaky voice, a racing heart, and zero guarantees. But that's not a reason to freeze. That's a reason to move, to say it, to launch it, to book it, to start. Because the most painful feeling in the world is not that you failed. It's knowing you never gave yourself the chance. There's a sentence we all say, and we say it like it's harmless. I'll decide tomorrow. It sounds so reasonable, so calm, so smart, as if life is sitting patiently, holding open the door, nodding along, waiting for you to feel ready. But life isn't waiting. It never was. The truth is, every time you delay, every time you say, not now, not yet, maybe later, what you're really saying is, I don't believe in myself yet. You're not waiting for a better time. You're waiting to feel less scared, less uncertain, less exposed. And here's the trap. You think time will make it easier. You think the longer you sit with the decision, the clearer it will become. But in most cases, the opposite happens. The longer you wait, the more doubt grows. The more scenarios your brain invents. The more excuses pile up. And what once was a spark of motivation gets buried under layers of overthinking and what ifs. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That idea you had to start something, to say something, to go somewhere. You felt it in your chest. It was real. It was alive. But instead of acting on it, you told yourself to sleep on it. And the next morning it didn't feel the same. The fire was smaller. The urgency was gone. The fear, though, still there. Maybe louder. So you waited again. You said, not today, and then it became a pattern. You ever wonder why some people seem to move through life so quickly while you're stuck overthinking everything? It's not that they're smarter. It's not that they have more clarity. They just don't let the window close. They feel the fear. They feel the doubt. And they move anyway because they've realized something most people haven't. Courage doesn't wait for comfort, and hesitation doesn't protect you. It just delays your growth. It steals your chances in such a quiet way, you don't even know they're gone until much later. You ever sit down one night and think, how is it already May? How did the year go by so fast? That's not time speeding up. That's you standing still. That's the consequence of, I'll decide later. Every time you say it, you're reinforcing a belief inside yourself. I'm not ready. And over time, that belief becomes your identity. You become the person who waits, who thinks about it, who plans, who prepares, but never leaps. And then you see someone else doing the very thing you dream about. Launching the podcast, moving to another country, asking out the person, starting the business, living the life, and it's not envy you feel. It's the grief of your own silence, the loss of a future you once held in your hands and let slip because it didn't feel like the right moment. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of your biggest opportunities won't feel perfect. They'll feel risky, uncertain, maybe even chaotic. But that doesn't mean they're wrong. It means they matter. Big moves are supposed to feel heavy. They're supposed to shake your comfort zone because they're not small decisions. They're the ones that shift everything. And if you keep waiting for the fear to go away, you'll still be waiting 10 years from now. You have to learn to move with the fear, to say yes even when your voice shakes, to book the ticket while your hands tremble, to press send while your heart races. Because fear isn't always a warning. Sometimes it's a sign you're right at the edge of growth. And here's the thing. You already know what you want. You've known for a while. You're just waiting for someone to give you permission to want it. Let me be that person for a second. You don't need more time. You need to trust yourself. You are not going to feel ready. You are not going to have a moment where everything aligns and all your doubts vanish. That's fiction. That's the fantasy your brain tells you to keep you safe. But safe isn't where you grow. Safe isn't where your story changes. Safe is just the long hallway where people pace back and forth, wondering why their life feels stuck. So ask yourself, how many more moments are you willing to lose to maybe later? How many more versions of your life will die inside your mind before you give just one of them a real chance? What if you just decided now? What if you didn't wait for the feeling of certainty and instead made a move that created it? Because waiting for clarity is like waiting for the water to stop being cold before you jump in. It won't. You either jump or you stand there forever on the edge, wondering what it would have felt like to fly. At some point, you have to realize hesitation isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you do to yourself. And when you do it often enough, it becomes more than a habit. It becomes a form of betrayal. Not to others, not to the world, but to yourself. Because every time you hesitate on something you know matters, something your heart has already said yes to, you are teaching yourself one brutal, silent lesson. I don't trust me. And the more times you repeat that lesson, the harder it becomes to believe anything else. You see, we like to think that our confidence will grow over time, that if we just wait long enough, we'll feel stronger, braver, more ready. But confidence isn't grown in silence. It's grown in motion. Every time you choose to act, even imperfectly, you reinforce the belief that your instincts are worth following. And every time you don't, you chip away at your own self-respect. Because deep down, you knew what you wanted. You felt it. You saw it. You even pictured the outcome. And still, you sat there, frozen, convincing yourself you needed just a little more clarity, a little more time, a little more of something you can never quite name. But what you were really doing was telling yourself, I don't believe I can handle the consequences. You weren't protecting your future. You were protecting your fear. You were preserving your doubt, giving it more room to grow. And then you wonder why your motivation feels so fragile, why your goals feel so far away, why you don't trust yourself to follow through on anything anymore. It's because you've built a history of abandoning your own momentum. You've shown your nervous system again and again that when a moment of pressure comes, you'll choose safety over self-respect. That hesitation you think is harmless, it's eating your identity from the inside out. And the scary part is, no one sees it happening. No one calls you out. You're not punished. The world doesn't stop spinning. People even compliment you for being careful, thoughtful, smart. But behind all that fake praise is a truth you already feel. You're not being cautious. You're being controlled. Controlled by fear. Controlled by past failures. Controlled by that quiet voice in your head that says, don't mess this up. Don't look stupid. Don't lose what little you have. But here's the thing. You're already losing something. Every single time you hesitate, you lose alignment with the person you were trying to become. And the worst part? You start to feel like a fraud. Because how can you talk about wanting more from life when you don't take the first step toward it? How can you crave meaning, growth, love, and adventure, but then flinch every time life asks you to leap? Eventually, you stop dreaming altogether. Because dreaming hurts when you know you won't chase it. Wishing becomes painful when you've trained yourself to stay put. And that's when hesitation becomes its final form. Resignation. The moment you stop even considering action, because you already assume you won't follow through, because you already know you'll hesitate again, and again, and again, until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. But listen, this doesn't have to be the end of your story, because just as hesitation is a pattern you've repeated, courage can be too. What if the next time your heart says go, you didn't pause to ask why? What if you moved, not because you were fearless, but because you were done betraying yourself? What if action became your apology to all the parts of you that you've abandoned? Because you don't rebuild trust by waiting for confidence. You rebuild it by choosing to act before you feel ready, by showing yourself that even when you're scared, you're still someone who moves. Let me tell you something most people never hear in their entire life. You don't need to be sure. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to know how it ends. You just need to move. That's it. Because the cost of hesitation isn't just missed opportunities. It's the slow erosion of your own identity. Every time you stall, every time you wait for clarity, for a sign, for someone to give you permission, you become a little less connected to the version of you that actually believes in change. And it's subtle at first. A few seconds lost here, a chance passed over there. No real damage, nothing tragic. But over time, it adds up. And one day you wake up and realize you didn't lose your dreams. You talked yourself out of them. You didn't fail. You just never really started. You were too busy trying to calculate the perfect move in a game that only rewards motion. Because motion, imperfect, messy, awkward motion, is what life responds to. Not overthinking, not strategy, not perfection, just movement. Do you know what regret sounds like? It doesn't sound like I shouldn't have done that. It sounds like, I wonder what would have happened if I just went for it. I wonder where I'd be if I didn't freeze. I wonder who I'd be if I had the courage to act back then. And those thoughts don't leave you. They stay. They grow. They haunt the quiet moments. Because regret doesn't hit like a slap. It settles like dust. You start to feel dull, disconnected, heavy, and you can't quite put your finger on why. But deep down, you know. You know it's all the versions of you that could have existed but never did. Because you hesitated. So here's what you do now. You move. Not recklessly, not impulsively, but deliberately. You say the thing. You start the project. You book the ticket. You apply. You reach out. You leave. You commit, even if your voice shakes. Even if you're not sure how it ends. Even if your legs feel unsteady and your heart is racing and your brain is screaming at you to wait. You move anyway. Because the only way out of hesitation is through it. The only way to rebuild belief in yourself is to act in defiance of your fear. And the only way to avoid regret is to make damn sure you leave nothing on the table. There is no perfect moment. There is no finish line where it all makes sense. There is only now. There is only choice. And there is only one question worth asking. Are you going to let this moment pass, or are you going to move before it disappears? Because if you're going to regret something, regret doing it, not missing it, not standing there frozen in time while your one life quietly moves on without you. Move first, regret later, if you must. But at least you'll know you showed up, you acted, you lived, and maybe, just maybe, that's all it ever really takes.